In July of 2008, in connection with the employment that you've just described, did you have an occasion to meet with Mr. George Anthony?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you accompany,
or
did Mr. Anthony accompany you to a location off of Narcoossee Road?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you tell the members of the jury when that took place?
That was when Kaylee was reported missing, and I was told by Corporal Yuri Mellish to go with them to that location is Johnson's Towing to recover a trash bag.
How crazy is this? Like, she's from the Orange County Sheriff's Office going to collect or attempt to collect evidence, and brings George Anthony with her. Like, I could just see him, inserting himself all into this, right? Like, he's telling her where to go. He's going to tell her how to do this and that and the other thing. And remember, he's not supposed to know anything about where this trash is or anything at all about, whatever. So, but how weird, like, can you even fathom that? They bring a family member, a civilian, any civilian, it doesn't matter who, like, bring in with her in the same cruiser. Like, he rode in her cruiser. Like, this is wild.
Out of the dumpster. And George Anthony knew what dumpster it was.
How? Like, that just doesn't make any sense, because he never saw it go into the dumpster. He wasn't there when that happened. He just saw it get chucked over the fence. He was very clear about that.
You said you put it into the trunk?
Yes.
Of your agency vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you access it again?
No, ma'am, until I got to the Orange County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. Was Mr. Anthony in the vehicle with you as you placed the item into your trunk?
Yes.
Okay. Did you allow him to have any access to the bag?
No.
That is insane.
Was he dropped off prior to your return to the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
At some point in time, did you attempt to determine whether or not the gas gauge on this vehicle was working properly?
Correct.
How did you determine that?
What I did in this case, I just photographed the vehicle and the instrumental panel, the way that I receive it. And after that, I put some gasoline in the vehicle and then turn on the ignition of the vehicle to see the needle of the gasoline gauge level. And that way, I photographed it.
Did you make a determination as to whether or not the gas gauge was in proper working order on the vehicle?
Yes, was working properly.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry, I disagree with that. Just because you put some amount, he didn't even specify how much. This is wild. Okay. At the very least, what you would need to know is you would need to know what size tank like that car holds, right? Because they all vary. How much gas is, like, what is a full tank or whatever, right? You'd have to know how much gas was in there to start with. You'd have to have a way to measure that, like, without using a gas gauge, right? If we're assuming that's not work, you'd have to have some other way to measure that. And then you'd have to know how much gas you put in it. So that then you could, like, and this is just me thinking through it with, like, common sense, right? I'm sure there's an actual fancy way, but just thinking through it with common sense. And then you could do the math to figure out, like, okay, but even then it's like that needle moving up or down is still, honestly, it's still subjective, right? Because it's just a visual thing and it's not going to be the most accurate anyway. But he didn't even say how much gas he put in. He just said he put some gas in the car and the needle went up. Like, the fact that you would testify that proves that the gas gauge is functioning properly. I mean, wow. It's not Solo Cup level, but it's pretty bad, I think.
Investigator Bloise.
Oh my God.
Bloise, yes.
Do you see States 50?
I can't stand this attorney, this prosecutor. Again, how? Is she not saying his name properly when we've heard it a bazillion times? This is great. So we had to bring in reinforcements, bring in the assistants here. Look at this, watch. Yes, this is the best part. This is the best part. They can't do it. I love it. I love it. Look. The struggle is so real. Oh my god, I'm dying. Just rip it open. Like a kid at Christmas. There you go. Oh, okay. All right. At least the jury's getting some theater, getting some action. They're probably awake now. Blah, blah. Got some clear gloves today.
IK identification is Article 22, a piece of the spare tire cover. Do you see that inside the box?
Yes.
Can you retrieve it?
Sure.
Another sticker on it.
This is the right one.
Just another add another sticker into the mix there.
Also testified about the gas gauge in the car.
Oh, thank God he's gonna ask about that because that was.
However, you didn't take the car out for a spin, did you?
No.
Okay, so you don't know if after driving it a certain period of time that gas gauge just sinks down.
No.
Okay. And all you can testify is that you put gas in the gas tank, and it rose up a little bit.
Yeah, that was
correct.
Stupid. That was stupid.
And there was also on the trunk liner certain animal hairs that were pointed out as well.
I don't have any recollection about the animal hairs on the trunk.
Did you not take notes, sir?
Yes, I did.
Do you have those notes with you?
Let's refresh you.
No, I destroyed the notes.
Well,
this is my notes.
Uh-oh, look at his face.
You're referring to your report.
My report, this is my notes.
Oh boy.
But you destroyed the notes from which you wrote that report?
Oh boy.
Correct. And
Oh boy.
based on the legal bulletin that we have at the sheriff's office.
Sir, just answer the question if you can. All right.
Yes.
Now, you testified on direct about some garbage that you received as evidence, did you not?
Garbage. I don't recall the
Funny.
Garbage that was turned over to you?
Oh, you're talking about in my report?
Yeah.
Yes, trash. Yes.
Trash, garbage, sorry.
Trash, yes.
Okay, so you had some trash that was given to you, correct?
Correct.
And this was moist garbage, was it not?
Trash, yes, moist.
Moist trash, okay. You prefer the term trash?
Yes, because I put that in my report, trash. And I would like to use trash in my report.
All right.
I try to be accurate in my testimony here because I use trash and I would like to use trash.
That's okay. We'll talk trash.
Okay.
Once you have written a report from your notes, what happens to the notes?
With the notes, as soon as I finish my report, I destroy the notes based on legal bulletin 97-09 made it by the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Based on this legal decision, and then I destroy the notes.
The notes that are since destroyed could never be inspected by the defense, could they?
Yep.
No.
That's a problem. I don't like that at all.
And during cross-examination, we were clear that you used the word decomposition, correct?
Mm-hmm. We were clear.
Correct.
And you also testified that the reason you chose that word was because you couldn't determine which type of decomposition it was. Do you remember testifying to that?
Correct. But I used that terminology in a simple way, decomposition. That was my intention when I put that in my report.
Correct. And when I asked you that that's because there are different types of decomposition, you answered that's correct.
Correct.
And that's why you did not specify human decomposition, correct?
It's possible, correct.
However, when Ms. Jane Burdick comes up and does redirect, it's now human.
That's what I was going to say. Is it's like he's like referring to when they had crossed the first time. It's like remember the boat times, like old Greg. It's like remember the good times we had together when we talked about this, and you agreed with the idea. Well, you agreed with yourself that you called it decomposition, and you weren't specific. You remember those times?
Decomposition.
Yes, because she asked me about based on my experience, then I can say on my experience can say that.
I think he said approach the bench. Look at him.
Hairs are not a means of positive identification. I can't say that one hair came from an individual to the exclusion of all others. But if they exhibit the same microscopic characteristics, I can say that they're consistent with coming from that same source.
Right.
And by corollary, if they show different characteristics, can you exclude?
I can exclude.
This languaging is just like what we hear with the tool mark analysis. It's the same type of languaging.
To different levels. If the individuals are within the same race and the characteristics are different, I can say that they're not consistent with coming from the same source. The exclusion is a little bit stronger if the differences are more significant. In other words, a racial origin difference, then that hair couldn't have come from this individual. And specifically talked about hairs that showed characteristics of apparent decomposition. And they defined a post-mortem root band as an opaque band that appeared to be made of parallel elongated air spaces. And it seemed to be at the transition between the portion of the hair that would still be within the scalp and the keratin or the protein in this area of the hair would still be soft. And the portion of the hair that would be above the scalp and the keratin in this area would be hardened. So the postmortem root band seemed to be at that transition period between the hard and the soft keratin.
And and ask if this is a poster that was prepared by your laboratory
Got a poster.
for purposes of sort of educational purposes.
It was.
Would it be helpful for you to use this in describing to the jury the different root characteristics we're talking about?
It would.
We love it when they bring their poster, their school projects into court. It's the best.
Any objections?
No objections.
Okay.
Okay, can everybody hear? Just speaking, you might make sure everybody can hear you.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep. Okay. Ms. Lowe, if you would just kind of take us through your poster and what it demonstrates about hair.
The top portion of the poster shows hairs in 2 of the 3 growth stages. Club roots or telogen hairs don't show any characteristics of decomposition. They don't seem to be affected by the decomposition process. So the hairs that we do see...
Is that because presumably they're shed before death?
Not necessarily. They may still be...
Leading.
Overall. Go ahead.
They may still be in the hair and haven't been shed yet.
Look at Mr. Baez over there. He's doing lounge lizard like Creighton on the far right-hand side of the screen. So I heard his objection, but I didn't know where he was coming from until I saw Mr. Ashton wag his finger. And then I was like, oh, there he is. Look at him lounge lizarding it up over there. That's awesome.
Again, nobody knows what exactly causes the appearance of the decomposition.
Did you find any hairs that showed evidence of apparent decomposition?
Excuse me, it should have been at least 11. Sorry.
At least 11. That's
one of the items had a hair that exhibited characteristics of decomposition.
And without getting into a DNA lecture, nuclear DNA is more specific, more discriminatory to an individual than mitochondrial, correct?
Mitochondrial DNA is inherited maternally, so all of your maternal relatives will have the same mitochondrial DNA. Nuclear DNA is unique to an individual, with the exception of twins.
So to give a real-life example, Casey and Kaylee and Cindy Anthony would all have the same mitochondrial DNA.
Objection, Your Honor, beyond the area of this witness's expertise.
Sustained.
Judge, if the witness has knowledge of that, I think she is established through her credentials that she has certain knowledge. In addition to that, this individual does determine which...
Can I object to the speaking? Objection.
I've sustained objection.
As we were talking to, as we were explaining this to the jury, that is the reason why you cannot testify and will not testify that one hair comes from one individual.
That's correct.
Okay. And this was a problem that the NAS report addressed in 2009.
Again, they saw it as a criticism, but it's really just a limitation of the science.
But it was a problem that they recognized that they wanted to offer guidance as to how to proceed in the future in the courtroom.
That's correct. They suggested doing accompanying DNA examinations.
Now, this is the very first time you have testified as an expert witness for hair banding. Isn't that correct?
Yes, it is.
And as it relates to hair banding, your knowledge, of course, is what you've testified to today, as to your qualifications.
My training and experience.
The 6-month training course, that a portion of it went to this topic.
That's correct.
And some on-the-job training where you have given your opinion.
That's correct.
And the 4 articles that you have referenced.
That's correct.
Now, you don't know what causes mitochondrial, you don't know what causes post-mortem banding.
No, I don't know what the mechanism is.
And not everyone who is deceased has post-mortem root banding.
That's correct.
So it just shows up sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
If it comes from a deceased person at all.
As I talked about earlier, the cases that I've worked that were homicide cases, so the known sample was from a deceased individual. You don't always see characteristics of decomposition in those known hairs.
My question was, you don't know if it comes up at all.
I'm not sure I understand your question.
You don't know if it comes up how often on individuals?
In casework and deceased individuals?
In any deceased person?
No.
You don't know the frequency?
No, I don't.
Okay. And the testimony that you've given here today, it's based on a handful of studies, is it not?
A handful of studies as well as training and experience.
Okay. And that training and experience, as we've explained, is you giving your opinion when you have a homicide case on certain hairs.
It's seeing those characteristics present in cases over 13 years.
And did that assistance include taking samples of some sort from the vehicle?
Yes, it did.
All right. Can you just give us a general overview of the different types of samples that you collected from the vehicle?
I initially collected stain samples to check to see if there was any blood inside the trunk liner of the vehicle. I did 3 separate tests, one on each side and one in the middle, which came out negative. And I also collected air samples from the vehicle.
There we go.
Did you also...
There's the air samples I've been talking about. Remember, this is like the first time this has ever been done. They collected air samples. Again, because all they're trying to do is prove that there was a smell and that the smell was a dead body. I mean, it's wild.
Now, you had mentioned taking air samples from the trunk.
Yes, ma'am.
Crazy.
Can you explain to the jury how air samples, how the process of collecting air samples began?
The first time we attempted to collect air samples, Dr. Michael Sigmund from the University of Florida, the National Center for Forensic Science, was assisting. He had a large syringe, and what he tried to do was insert it through the trunk seal rather than open up the trunk because he was going to suck the air into the large syringe.
This is insane.
We were unable to do that, so we cracked open the trunk as little as possible to get the syringe in there.
They're making
and
up.
Close the trunk. And
they're making up like a brand new way of collecting supposed evidence. That's like, this is crazy. It's like kids fooling around with like a science fair project or something. It's insane.
He was able to suck out the air that was in there. He then transferred the air from the syringe into a plastic bag. A Teflon bag, I believe they call
How
it.
the hell?
And he transferred the air into 2 bags. And he also...
Do they not know that air, if you just put it in if you take a syringe and you take air and you put it into a plastic, do they not understand that air can like move around and like leave the bag? Like this is...
hung a filter inside the trunk of the vehicle. After we were successful in getting the air out of there, we opened up the trunk and he hung a filter in there. And we closed the trunk again to see if the air would absorb into the filter.
All right.
He observed this process?
Yes, he performed the process and I was there observing.
As a result of this...
I have a question for you, sir. As you were there observing this, were you asking yourself, what the fuck am I doing here?
endeavor, did you collect an item that was ultimately shipped to the Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee?
And that's where Dr. Arpad Vass comes into the mix.
August 29th, I did air samples from the vehicle, and August 30th, I did air samples from the trash that was collected from the vehicle.
Explain to the jury how that process took place.
Air samples
From the piece of equipment that he sent.
Air samples from the trash. So this trash, remember, this trash was in the car for some unknown period of time. And then after that, it was in the dumpster. In the dumpster at Johnson's Towing Company for some, like, I guess actually it would have been some number of hours, but still. Then they pull it out of the dumpster and now they're testing the air. I don't know. This is crazy.
On August 1st of 2008, did you respond to the Anthony home at 4937 Hope Spring Drive and collect items described as gas cans?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Boy,
If I may have AJ for identification.
infamous gas cans.
This is one of 2 gas cans that I collected from the house.
Okay.
Well,
How is it that you can recall the collection date and time?
Located in the picture is a identification card, and the card has my name, the case number, the time, and the date.
What happened to this item after you photographed it?
What I did was I swabbed the gas can for any DNA, and I also conducted a latent examination on the gas can to see if I could get any fingerprints off the gas can.
Were you successful?
No, I was not.
The difficulty that you had is in collecting air samples is that air is a free-flowing thing, is it not?
Air is free-flowing, but I don't understand what you mean by difficult.
Okay. Well, let me rephrase it let me put it this way. The air in the garage of your forensic bay was not the same on July 16th as it was August 29th, was it?
It wasn't the same air. Whether it was the same quality of air, I couldn't tell you that.
Right. And that's because you open the garage door, air comes in and air goes out.
Correct.
Right. And that's the same thing with this car, correct?
Correct. The air would leave and the air would stay. Yes.
You testified, and I'm showing the witness Defense Exhibit E. You testified, sir, that
Y'all,
you collected this trash can.
it's framed. That gas can is framed. I mean, if never ever in any trial a picture of a piece of evidence that is so stupid and ludicrous in terms of the premise of it, if anything ever should be framed, like this is the thing. And I think. Oh, sorry for the bad pause on him.
Sorry.
I think it's almost to be funny on purpose because it is so silly. The whole thing about George Anthony calling the cops because somebody stole his gas can is just so insane. Filing a police report, and there's the gas can.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the time is now approximately 8 minutes to the hour of 1. I don't necessarily think we have an 8-minute witness. Okay, we're going to recess for today and reconvene in this matter on Monday at 9 a.m.